Chapter 162. The giant whale remained silent, gently swaying in the air, its shadow covering the entire area. Quite annoying, occasionally the space echoed a sound like a prison, giving a creepy feeling. The whale glanced down. Its two minions had been encased in ice, presumably dead. Divine Tree also quietly observed the whale's every move. What made Divine Tree a bit puzzled was that this giant whale was not light in weight, but it could still fly in the air. It seemed that Divine Tree always suffered a lot, still did not know how to fly. The size of this whale is indeed extraordinary. It could be as large as a corner of the city. Comparing it to a mountain is not too much. On its body there is an island full of trees, looking quite terrifying. The fins on both sides of its body help the giant whale easily navigate in the air, looking very graceful. The image of the whale was transmitted back to the Spiritual Power Supervision Department. Everyone was shocked again. The female director whispered anxiously, "What's with that whale?" Boom! A sharp blue spiritual power cut across the space, the battlefield in the city of humans. This is the dual place of Godzilla and the giant octopus. The octopus is taking advantage of its long tentacles, one tentacle tightly wrapped around Godzilla's neck, preparing to launch a deadly close combat attack. But Godzilla is not a fool. Long range is not his weakness. Godzilla immediately launched a spiritual breath. A huge stream of spiritual power shot straight at the giant octopus. At this close range it is definitely unavoidable. The octopus immediately raised all its tentacles to block. Swish, swish, swish! The sound of spiritual breath tearing the space echoed. Regardless of how much damage, the giant octopus still put all its strength to block this attack. Indeed, Godzilla's attack is not ordinary. In front of the octopus's extremely thick defensive skin, it was still cut by Godzilla's attack into deep cuts. Blood continuously flowed out. But the Octopus King is always optimistic and loves life. Its eyes are still smiling eyes. That's right, the giant octopus is also one of the 7 kings of the sea, transcendent third order peak. Just a little bit more will reach fourth order. On the other side, Godzilla is at transcendent third order. His eyes always shine with a cold light, not knowing fear, never flinching. The octopus looked at Godzilla for a while. In his head he couldn't help but exclaim, he didn't expect humans to have such a creature weapon. It was really powerful. But the next second, the octopus suddenly shuddered because this strange breath suddenly came, too strong and too familiar. This is the breath of that person. The Crab King on the other continent was also shocked. Isn't this the breath of the prophet? Didn't he fall asleep? The mermaid, also one of the 7 kings of the sea, her eyes had no pupils. She also felt the aura of the great prophet. But she was wondering, she didn't know what made this great prophet wake up. But she quickly realized, 3 of the sea kings had been killed. This could be the main reason that made the great prophet wake up. This is also reasonable. Nearly half of the sea's combat power was destroyed. The risk of failure has increased. People everywhere saw the giant monster as big as half a city and could fly. Everyone was terrified. People had never seen any creature so large and dominating the sky. A desperate boy exclaimed, "I can't see through this world anymore." After a long time of appearing, this whale was still silent, silently moving in the sky. It seemed to exude from it an infinite contempt for humans and the races on the ground. The whale once again passed over the head of the divine tree. Then he circled back, said solemnly, "You are the mutant tree?" The whale's eyes lit up brightly. As if it contained a galaxy inside, he continued to say, "Under the deep sea of 10,000 meters, I can still feel your spiritual power." Divine Tree silently looked at the whale. Divine Tree was calculating a bit. The spiritual power of this guy was completely strange. It seemed that Divine Tree had never met before. Divine Tree spoke up. "Are you the boss of the 7 sea kings? Why do you guys attack and invade the continent? You guys can't live here. Why do you have to do this meaningless thing?" The whale heard this, its eyes still shining but somewhat narrowed. It said solemnly, "Because the sea can no longer accommodate us." Divine Tree was stunned. "Meaning you were driven out of your home? Such a heartbreaking thing to say so easily?" Divine Tree continued to be silent, as if waiting for the whale to continue. Seeing Divine Tree's eyes, the whale continued its story. "The spiritual energy of heaven and earth has been restored. All things are growing. The land is also enough for sea creatures to log in and reproduce. We sea creatures will soon evolve and adapt to life on land. So that's it, they were not driven out of the sea, but they abandoned the sea themselves, wanting to occupy more land to dominate this planet. Knowing this, Divine Tree was immediately furious, shouted, "Damn it, you guys want to live on the continent, then you just kill all the creatures on the continent?" The whale stared, replied provocatively, "Not wrong, only strong races deserve to survive, isn't this the principle of you humans?" "Use you." Divine Tree was immediately startled, didn't expect this guy to know Divine Tree's name, even considered him a human? "This guy has so many secrets," Divine Tree shouted. "How do you know my name? Who are you really?" At this time, the whale stopped in the air. Its whole body exuded a cold and dark aura. It said solemnly, "I am the darkness." After hearing the opponent's answer, Divine Tree immediately heightened his vigilance, entered a defensive state. Could this be the darkness that the system mentioned? Is this also the darkness that the desert storm god warned Divine Tree about? Divine Tree immediately shouted, "Today, if you don't tell all your secrets, don't think about escaping from here." Boom, boom, boom. The surrounding area immediately rose up with an ice storm. Ice walls tens of meters thick immediately grew at an astonishing speed, wanting to completely seal off this space, not giving the whale a chance to escape. Seeing this scene, the whale remained calm as if nothing had happened, showing no signs of surprise or fear. The sound of ice cracking echoed in all directions. Divine Tree's boundary was continuously being perfected. The whale seemed to have understood Divine Tree's intention. It raised its head high. Its eyes slightly narrowed and shone with a deep sparkle. It gently said to Divine Tree, "You want to separate us from the outside world. You must be afraid that your secrets will be heard by humans and your subordinates, right?" The giant whale glanced at Divine Tree. Its tone became provocative. "I wonder what your expression would be when your subordinates find out the truth that you are a human." As soon as it finished speaking, the ground suddenly shook. Divine Tree's roots sprouted from the ground. The shape of the roots had transformed into a strong foot. Divine Tree shouted angrily, "They will never know." At this time, Divine Tree had blinked and transformed. Its whole body of dense leaves had turned into a muscular strongman, extremely powerful. Its whole body still had gaps revealing a dense blue spiritual power that was dissipating. The red branches like blood had become long hair thrown back. A very domineering figure. Divine Tree raised its hand as if it wanted to squeeze something and shouted, "You will die under my feet." The whale looked at this figure of Divine Tree. Its eyes immediately lost their calmness. Its bright spiritual power also began to overflow from its eyes. The battle would begin. The divine elephant had run quite far away, looking at the entire ceiling formation in front of it. It was a huge ice sphere enclosing Divine Tree and the dark whale inside. The scale of this seal was as big as a city. Xiaoling was also next to it. The whale then exclaimed, "To enclose the whole city like this, the spiritual power is indeed abundant, abundant to the point of extravagance." But Xiaoling seemed more worried. She didn't know how this battle would turn out. Her master had just broken through, but the opponent was also terrifying. It was because of the worry for other lives that her master had enclosed the battle space of the two of them. Super Punch of 9 Roots was launched. The real battle had begun. The whale also did not hesitate to open its mouth, firing a terrifying sonic wave straight at Divine Tree. Both of them had approached each other in a blink of an eye. Of course, Divine Tree also did everything to approach the battle, because with this form, close combat is the strength. The whale, if not careful, could be hit to the head swollen like a pig's head. Creating a boundary to block the outside space was a correct decision, because when fighting, the ground was all dug up. The space seemed no longer suitable for any living creature. All wanted to be torn apart. The whale at this time was a bit surprised. The mutant tree, unexpectedly strong, just entered the battle, had launched full power. The whale saw itself gradually falling into a disadvantage. Simply close combat, he definitely could not fight against Divine Tree, so the whale began to fly high. Both sides of the body rose up light blue light spots, a total of 8 light spots, like 8 cannons ready to bombard the ground. Divine Tree below saw this scene, was a bit stunned. Simultaneous attack, 8 consecutive shots, 2 domineering. The whale aimed straight at the target. its mouth disdainfully muttered nonstop, turn into a dry, broken tree. Boom! Boom! Simultaneously 8 shots fired straight at Divine Tree. The absolute power is destructive level. The whole several hundred meters at the standing position of Divine Tree, all have no dead angle, all become dust. Divine Tree below could not dodge, only knew to raise a hand to block this attack. The feeling was a bit very damn. Divine Tree shouted, giant transformation. Immediately, Divine Tree's whole body became huge. The figure was equal to the dark whale. How about that? Surprised? Of course surprised. The whale's brother Two Eyes stared at this scene. But before he could say anything then, boom! An uppercut from below, aimed right at the lower mouth of the whale and punched. A close-range punch just like a professional boxer. You could see how painful the whale was. Its eyes wanted to burst, fresh blood spurted out, because its stomach had been punched in. This was a knockout punch. End of chapter 162.